I think not letting life and its difficult circumstances defeat you and practicing it every day, the resilience, the perseverance, that's how you build it. And then when you start to do it enough, you start to identify as a person who's resilient and perseverant.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. Nothing you hear on this show is legal or investment advice, nor is it an offer to buy or sell securities. Always consult your own legal and financial professionals before making decisions. Welcome back to another Capital Flow podcast. I'm your host, Dallon Schultz. We've got an incredible guest with us today, Devon Kennard. This gentleman has not only highly performed in his athletic career, nine-year veteran in the NFL, but also crushing it in his real estate and business world. So really excited to have Devon here with us. Devon, appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited for the conversation.
Absolutely. So share with our guests a little bit about how you got started into the world of real estate and business. And naturally, we want to hear about your NFL career too.
So, I played 9 years in the NFL, played for the Giants, Lions, and Cardinals. I started, my kind of backstory is I really started investing in real estate as soon as I got into the NFL. And the reason why, I was a top recruit out of here locally, Phoenix, Arizona, going into college. And I had a rough college career, up and down, injuries, coaching changes. So it didn't look like my dream was going to come true of playing in the NFL. So I started to ask myself, do I want to be successful because of football or because, I was successful in general? Do I want success only because of football or to be successful in general in life? And for me, it was like, I want success regardless. I always envisioned it through the game of football, but if it wasn't going to be football, I needed to figure out how else I was going to find success. And that kind of led me to real estate. And I got into the NFL and I tried to do the stock market thing for a little while. I didn't like the volatility and I didn't like the cash flow. So the lack of cash flow. So I pivoted right to what my gut already told me. And I started buying rentals. And, one kind of claim to fame, when I was drafted in the NFL, I took my high school car, 2005 Kia Sorento, up to New Jersey, New York area where, the MetLife Stadium is and the Giants played. And I'm in the NFL and I'm driving a 2005 Kia Sorento while I'm surrounded by Mercedes, Range Rovers, Rolls Royces, and you name it. But I feel like I recognized delayed gratification even at a young age. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice now and I'll buy the things that I want later on in life. So I dove in on real estate and just never looked back.
Man, there's so much we can unpack here. So let's go back to your childhood and your upbringing, because that discipline, most people, when they get drafted into a professional sport, they get their bonus, they're making all this money, they go out, they buy the car, the houses, the things that they want. But you had this level of discipline that probably wasn't very typical with some of your colleagues. So let's go back to your upbringing, your childhood. Like, there must have been something that, one, led you to want to professionally compete in the NFL, and two, that got you to that level of discipline and being able to think further ahead.
Yeah. For me, it was obvious. It was right in front of me. So my dad played professional football as well. He played 13 years in the NFL. So I was second generation, but I got a good chance to see growing up what it looked like on the other side of the NFL, because most of my upbringing, I'm the youngest of three. My dad was retired. So I'm like, all right, my dad played 13 years, won a Super Bowl, and still had so much life afterwards. So I already had this understanding that it wasn't going to last forever. And even if it worked out perfect, I was going to have to figure out what's next. So my perspective was like, football is a part of my journey, not the end all be all. And knowing that I could achieve it, because having a father who did it, I always had that dream of playing football. But I'm like, even if I do, what else? So I think that helped a lot. And understanding I got to take care of my family long after my football career. And you get older and you start to hear the horror stories of guys going broke. And I'm like, I don't want to work my butt off to make the money and then lose it. Like, I don't think it's one thing to remain poor or like not have money your whole life, but to make money and then lose it and become that and not have the resources to ever get it back, that might be worse. Like, because you've seen what it tastes to have something and then to never get it again. So I'm like, how do I get it one day and keep it? And, I think that mindset is what really kind of kept me going, and was like, all right, I'm going to figure out not only how to make it, but how to keep it.
I love it. And you referenced being in college, and there were some ups and downs with injuries, with coaching changes, and you weren't sure exactly what that future would look like for you. What were some of those biggest lessons you learned during that time, and what was it that kept you pushing, that kept you moving forward towards that dream?
I think the biggest lesson I learned while I was in college was definitely like stand on what you believe as far as the way to success. So throughout college, I went through bouts of like anger, frustration, jealousy, bitterness, because I felt like I was making the sacrifices. I graduated with my undergrad in 3 years. I got my master's degree in a year and a half. I trained hard, made so many sacrifices, and I was seeing teammates of mine, friends of mine, quite frankly, have so much more success than me on the field. Not like I'm training more and harder than you. Why am I getting hurt and you're not? Why? And I my brother and my dad kept instilling in me, like, stay true to what you believe, how you want to go about things. And it was hard at times because I'm like, they're getting away with partying and drinking and smoking and, just living loosey-goosey, that college life. But I stayed true to myself. I'm like, this is how, if I'm going to fail, I want to fail my way. And that kind of concept of like, I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. And then if I fail, I can never look myself in the mirror because I'm like, what would have happened if I did it my way? If I fail my way, I can at least say, hey, I did everything to the best of my ability, how I think things should be done, and it didn't work out. I can live with that. So that mindset has really carried me, because now I'm post NFL, and everything I've done in real estate and what I'm building in my local lending business here. And it's like, it's against the grain, it's like a professional athlete. And now like I'm a lender and I lend, like, it's, I don't know anyone who's done anything that I'm doing right now, but I take seriously learning as much as I can and kind of okay with going down my own path. And like, I think that goes a long way. So I hope that's a message that resonates to a lot of listeners, is like, man, when you really feel strongly about something and you're doing things the right way, stick to it, keep grinding, keep making the effort, and you might get the benefit down the road. It's not always immediate.
That's a very tough lesson and concept to understand. And I don't think you're alone. I know I've experienced this in my life. I know a lot of business owners do, where you feel like you're doing all the right things and the business isn't quite where you want it to be. The revenue's not quite where you want it to be. And then you look at your friend or your person over here and they just seem to be crushing it. And it doesn't seem like they're working as hard.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to get those negative emotions and feelings brewing inside, which doesn't do any good for any of us, right? And I've noticed in my life, in those moments, I start experiencing this sense of entitlement. Like I've been working my ass off. This should come to me, and that's not always the case, right? Like a lot of times it will produce end results, but when it comes to comparison and working with people and having like-minded people around you, sometimes that can be very productive and effective, right? When you're on the field and you're working together as a team and you're in a flow and you're grinding and working hard together. But then there might be other situations like you experienced where other teammates are out partying and it seems like they're performing better or not getting injured as much. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because it comes down to, can I get away with doing that too and still have success? Or is that the way? Or like, do they know something I don't know? Those are all the thoughts, and those are real. Like, and I had to kind of go through them, but it's like, what do I want ultimately? And even then, it's like, school's a great example. For me, I was a collegiate athlete, hopefully with dreams of playing in the NFL, and I'm going to school at USC, University of Southern California, for free. So my mindset was like, I don't love school, but I'm going to get as much done as fast as I can because it's free and I don't want to have to go back.
Yeah.
Another guy's mindset might be, I'm going to the league, I'm going to do well enough just to get by. And I'm like, we got the same hours in a day. I left with 2 degrees, you left with none. because you failed classes and you had to go, like, I have teammates who should have graduated. They didn't. They did make it to the NFL, but now they want their degree and they're grown men with kids and families going back to school. I'm never going to think about school again because I handled my business at the time. So that, like, I just really believed in the perspective and the way that I had and thinking through it. And it's like, this sucks. Like, I'm taking 8 to 12 units every summer. So, that's 2 to 3 classes every summer, 16 units every semester, even during football season. So it wasn't that I wasn't going to have a good time at all. Like, don't get me wrong. I went out and had fun and partied after a game here or there and did those things. But it's like, it's more rewarding when you handle your business first. So for me, having the understanding of, like, take care of your business so you can really go and enjoy that. When I did go out and party, I let loose because, man, I've passed all my classes, turned in all my homework. We got the big dub. Like, I'm going to celebrate. It never sat well with me having the perspective of, like, I know I got all this work to do, but I'm out doing this. Like, it's not handling your business first. So I feel like that's a great mindset to have, is like, you could have all the fun in the world if you take care of your business first. And that kind of gives you the opposite of procrastination. Like, it's like, all right, let me handle it and then go enjoy it, instead of like, oh, I'll get to that later.
I don't feel like that's very typical with most business owners, because most business owners, in my experience, are, whether they're diagnosed or self-diagnosed, ADHD, and they jump around, but also that's also a really strong superpower for them because they are able to tap into their creative minds. So your ability to just take ownership and like get the work done that needs to get done and then play, is that something you've felt like you've developed over time, or is that something that you just feel like is a natural ability of yours?
I think that part might be a little natural. Like, I never felt comfortable enjoying myself when I know there was stuff I needed to take care of. So when I was a professional athlete, if I know I should have worked out today and I'm eating in and out and hanging out with my buddies, it just never sat, like, because my dad and my brother kind of instilled something in me to where it's like, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You never stay the same. And you can't do what everybody else is doing if you got different goals than them. So if I got big goals of playing in the NFL one day, if I got big goals of running a very successful business one day, and I'm doing the same thing as somebody with goals that are okay with, being a W-2 earner and just coasting, and but I'm trying to live how they're living, how am I going to get to where I'm trying to go? So I kind of always believed in that, because that's kind of what my dad and my brother kind of instilled in me, and that's kind of rang true even professionally. Like, how can somebody else and how they're operating their business dictate how I operate mine when we have different goals? Like, for me and my business, I want flexibility to drop my kids off at school every morning, pick them up every night. I don't want somebody else controlling me or managing me. I want to be my own owner. I'm going to run my business a little different than the next person. So I might have to make different kind of choices. And being okay with that is I guess a superpower of mine, because I'm okay with, like, all right, this is how I think I need to do it, and okay with being wrong, because you're not right all the time, and you got to kind of learn through it and figure out what your way is when you're trying to build your own path. Like, you get it wrong and you're like, oh, I got to go back this way. I got to change course. But I think the key is being an eternal learner, to where, like, I'm always reading, like, taking information from people like yourself, from other entrepreneurs. And it's like, how can I take what they're saying, what they're doing, how they're running their business? How does that apply to me? So Some people just learn and try to copy. I'm like, they're doing something different, or they have a different purpose, or they're trying to grow to $1 billion company. So they're operating their business this way. But what can I take from how they're doing things that applies to how I want to run and operate what I'm doing? And I think a lot of people don't bridge that gap from, like, learning to application to you. And I would say that's something I'm trying to learn to master. Like, how do I take information and apply it to what I want?
And it's about having that clarity of that outcome. And it sounds like you've had plenty of opportunities through your college career and in the NFL where it's probably a constant comparison. I mean, that's probably I would imagine one of the biggest challenges that a lot of athletes have at that level.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like, you're seeing you're competing at the most elite level.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to compare yourself to other people, but it sounds to me like you had plenty of opportunities early on to observe, see, and maybe take some habits that you could see fitting into your ideal outcome.
Yes.
And then there was probably other things that you're like, okay, that works for him, but that's not going to work for me. So having clarity on that outcome sounds like that's really what's helped drive your athletic career and professional career. And in football, you always had this dream of playing in the NFL. So you guys share with us, what was that experience like when you went from college to getting drafted?
I remember one of the first preseason games I ever played in. I'm playing against Tom Brady, and I was playing inside backer at the time. I played mostly outside, but when I first got in the league, I was playing some inside. And it was like the third game of this preseason, which is usually when starters play the first couple of series. And there was some injuries, so I was actually planning on starting. And I'll never forget, it's like the first or second play of the game, and I was number 59 for the Giants. And it was like, 59's the mic, whatever. And it was just crazy. Like, Tom Brady is addressing me, and I've been watching this guy for years already. So it was like kind of surreal. And then making your first play, getting your first sack, like having that opportunity, being a real contributor. I was a 5th round draft pick, so the reports when I got drafted was like, oh, he'll be lucky. Probably a special teams guy. He was injury prone in college. Who knows how this plays out? And to be able to start like pretty much my entire career and have the success level that I had in the NFL and be blessed enough to make the kind of money that I made while I was playing, I feel blessed and fortunate, but it was also a lot of work.
Yeah. How do you navigate those voices and that noise?
I would say for me, navigating it is controlling what you can control. So I never skipped the work. I always worked hard, did everything I could to take care of my body, to make sure I was prepared, studied, all that. And then from there, let the cards fall where they may. You can't control everything. So I think that is a huge component. Like, you do everything you can to train right, to treat your body right, to eat right, to sleep right, study. I was a big football wizard. I understood formations. In this formation, they like to do this and that formation, because I was never, once I got to the league, especially after some of the injuries I had, I was never the biggest, fastest, or strongest guy at my position. So my football IQ, understanding the game, really gave me an advantage in my film study. So putting all that together, and I'm like, all right, I got to at some point, you got to let the chips fall where they may. And I think that's a good mindset to have. You prepare as much as you can, and then you go out and execute to the best of your ability. And God willing, that's enough. But there's nothing more you can do as an individual at that point. So when you have that perspective, what I can never live with is not handling everything I should have up to that point. So I think I take that same perspective in business. It's like learning as much as I can, controlling the controllables, handling what I can, and then there's going to be some curveballs that come up. And if you've prepared yourself in every other way, then you should be able to handle those and adjust and pivot and find answers. And I think that's the kind of perspective you have to take. So I think that's what helped me.
It's obviously you got a competitive edge. You played in professional sports with me, and I know with Paul as well. When somebody says like you can't do that, or they challenge it, naturally internally something in us is like, freaking watch me.
Yeah.
Like, just freaking watch me. So I love what you're saying about focusing on what you can control, because there's a lot of things you can't. People are gonna say what they're gonna say, but if you have clarity on who you are and where you're going and what you want, you developed an ability to just shut that out and even either shut it out or turn it into fuel.
Yes.
To push you. So let's talk a little bit about that, because when you got into the NFL, you were talking about how you drove your 2005 Kia Sorento, and you drove that for a few years, for the first few years of the NFL, while all your other teammates are probably going out buying their dream cars, dream houses. So talk through us a little bit about that experience and what kept you so disciplined and resilient and focusing on life after.
Well, it's not that I didn't want nicer things. It was like embracing the concept of delayed gratification. Mm. So for me, I don't think, I've done a lot of podcasts. I don't think I've ever shared, but like one of my favorite things was after my third year in the NFL, I actually had $1 million in the bank for the first time. And I asked all the other rookies that got drafted with me, like if they did too, and they didn't. A lot of them had a few $100,000, and they didn't believe me that I had $1 million in the bank, because they're like, there's no, like, you must have not spent anything, or, you know, what have you. And it's like, so, you know, jokingly in the locker room, I'm like, really showed them like, oh, I have $1 million actually in the bank, like even after taxes and all expenses. And that was something that I was proud of once I realized nobody else did around me, because of those decisions. But that $1 million gave me in a position where I was buying real estate, and now growing wealth that way. And a big goal of mine when I first got in the NFL, I mentioned I tried to invest in the stock market at first, because that's what everybody in the locker room was doing. I'm talking to vets in the locker room. They're like, oh, I got this financial advisor and I'm investing in this stock and that stock. And so I was like, oh, I guess I'll do that. And I hated it because it was so volatile and there was no cash flow. And I'm like, I'm a 5th rounder. Everyone's telling me I'm not going to make it in the league very long. I wanted to get to $10,000 a month of income. Like, I'm like, if I can get to $10,000 a month, I'm freaking 22 years old. I'm going to have a pretty nice apartment. I'll be able to rent a car when I get done with my Kia. Like, I'm living pretty good coming off of out of college if I can do that. So for me, it was buying some rentals. How many rentals do I need to buy, like, to be able to have $10,000 of cash flow? And that's what, like, really got me going. So my focus was that, instead of buying the car, or getting the crazy nice apartment in Hoboken, which is the city facing New York City and Jersey. Like, I was like, you know what? I'm going to not do that right now. Try to get to $10,000, because if I can do that, I'm going to be living pretty good, even if this NFL thing doesn't work out.
And we just got done talking for quite a few minutes about focusing on what you can control. And so seeing what your teammates were doing, the stock market, we have no control, right? Like, you're literally at the mercy of the companies, your financial advisor. So that's an example to me of a situation where you observed, you saw what others were doing, you tried it, you realized very quickly that it's not in line with your desired outcome.
Yes.
And you're the type of person that wants a little bit of more control, right? And control of your destiny, your future. And so you pivoted from that and you started getting into buying rentals and getting cash flow. And you've worked your way up now to where you're private money lending. Yes. And right before we started, you shared that 2025 was a big year, and you lent nearly $11 million. Yes. You know, I think you said 10.8.
10.8. And what's impactful about that is it's all private money, my own, and a little bit of investor capital. So in the lending space, there's some people that will tout huge numbers. You know it, being familiar in the syndication space, because in the syndication space, they might be like, I have 10,000 units under management, but like they own a very small percentage of it, and they're not generating much from it individually, which is fine. But it's just like, in my case, I funded $10.8 million, but it's all personal capital. So there's bigger lenders who funded $100 million who didn't take home as much as I took home.
Yeah. And
so I'm like, for people to understand that dynamic, like, I'm proud of my number because of the capital stack within my business and what the revenue that I was able to generate with that, as opposed to, you know, someone, and their business model is different. So it's okay. Like, for me, if I grow this thing to a $50 million like loans outstanding every year, I'm crushing it.
Yeah.
And while somebody else's goal is to fund $1 billion, but their business model is different. So that goes back to the conversation we're having. I'm playing a different game, and that's okay. And me being okay with that, my numbers might not look as sexy on Instagram to the next person, but I'm looking at my net profit margins. I'm looking at my take home, and I'm like, this is what I want to build. This is how I want to build it. And being okay with that is hard, because it's humble. Like, next guy, I posted 10.8 and I saw another lender post like 130 million. And I'm like, I got to remind myself again, it's like that self-talk of like, we're playing a different game. His business model is different than mine. Great for him. I hope he took home a lot. I know what I took home, and I'm happy with where I'm at.
Hey, Dallon here. We'll get right back to the show in less than 60 seconds, but I wanted to take a moment to share something that could be costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars in-loss capital, your email deliverability. If your open rates aren't at least between 40 and 60%, I'm going to guess you don't have a content problem. You most likely have a deliverability problem. That means your emails are landing in spam, meaning potential investors are not being nurtured effectively, or even worse, never even having a chance to see your investment offering. But it's okay. We're going to help you fix that. My team put together a free guide with 10 best practices to ensure you're avoiding spam and actually hitting your leads inbox. Your email reputation is like a credit score. It can take years to build and moments to ruin it. So don't make the same mistakes we did. The resource is short, tactical, and will get your emails back where they belong, the inbox. So go ahead, click on the link in the description or show notes below to access the checklist so you can avoid capital slipping through your fingers because of a simple fix. Click the link below, and now let's get back to the show.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. There's so many different ways to be successful in business, in capital, in real estate. And these people that may have lent more or they are syndicating, to your point, what can I learn from them?
Yes.
What can I learn? What are there some things I can implement that could help me accelerate my journey? But man, going back to just that clarity, and you and I have had conversations about this because we raise money, we operate a fund, we syndicate. We had a conversation and you were very clear on how you operated. And it's funny because then like a week or two later, you actually did a post about how you had a conversation with somebody about why they raise capital and funds. And this is why I lend. Yeah. And I chimed in. I was like, yep, me, that was me, you know? But it was awesome to see the clarity that you have on it. And I love seeing people be successful.
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways.
I think what's important is even on the raising, like I've been on the other side, like I've invested significant amount of money as an LP in syndicated deals. I'm not against them by any means. You know, I'm like, for a long time, majority of my money, as those liquidate, I'm getting out and I want to control my own. And I've raised nearly $2 million of investor capital within my lending. So it's not like I'm against that. It's just understanding the pros and cons and building your business and your investment portfolio how you want. When I was playing, I didn't have enough time. So I was buying rentals for a long time that I owned outright. But I started to make enough money to where I couldn't keep up with the new numbers I wanted. It was first 10,000, then I'm gonna hit 20,000. Trying to own that while playing in the NFL, but find enough good rentals, find the right property management. So that's where I pivoted and started investing in syndications heavily. Let me go and identify. Let me be great at underwriting great syndicators and operators and investing in their deals as an LP and getting quarterly distributions at 8% clip, which is standard, and it's the 70-30 split and all. So I had to learn that game. And what am I looking for? What's a good fee structure? You know, does the operator have skin in the game? And that really fit what I was doing for a long time because I had enough capital. I didn't want to put it all in the stock market. I didn't like venture capital. It can 100x, but it could also zero. So I'm like, you know what? These syndications and funds is where I want to invest for a long time. And I still think they can play a pivotal role for a lot of people. And I did that for majority of my career. And then towards the tail end, I started to see I'd been learning that whole time. And it's like, when I get done, I want to be a professional real estate business owner and in the space myself. What does that look like for me? Rentals, I'm like, they weren't cash flowing like they were when I was buying in 2014. Syndications, I got to see a lot of them mature. I didn't like how some fund managers, how they layered up their capital stack, the debt structures they got, capital calls, their withholding distributions. Once again, I didn't like not having control. Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I want more control, but buying rentals wasn't cash flowing enough. I started doing some lending, and that's how I kind of fell into lending. It's like one advantage I have is I have capital because I played in the NFL. I've learned how to vet deals. I've learned how to vet operators. Why can't I just lend them the money? It's more direct, and I have more collateral in the sense of I can take over the property. So it was kind of an evolution for me, and I don't disagree with any of the older models I did. Just right now in the phase of life I'm in, the lending business provides the cash flow that allows me to continue to compound like Warren Buffett and reinvest, live my lifestyle. So then one day I can go and maybe I'm putting more money in syndications again. Maybe I'm buying commercial myself at that time. So that's kind of my vision today. But I just wanted to share that because it's kind of the evolution of like buying single family my own, investing as a limited partner, now I'm private lending, and one day maybe I'll do one or the other or both again.
Listeners by now should totally picked up on just the amount of action taking and discipline that you have. But there might be some that are like, well, yeah, DK was in the NFL. Of course, he made a good chunk of money. Of course, he set him up to be able to private lend. And I don't agree with that necessarily because of your discipline, the actions. I mean, you just shared your whole story around it. So for those people that might not be in a position where they get to play in the NFL, maybe they're making a little bit less. What lessons, what experiences, what advice could you share with them to still get to a similar outcome?
One of my favorite stories is actually a passage in the Bible, and it's a parable. And there's three guys that were servants to a master, and the master's leaving town for a long time, and he gave one servant 1 bag of gold, one servant 2 bags of gold, and another servant 5. The guy with 5 bags of gold, he told him to invest it, do well with it, and show me what you did with it when I got back. The guy with 5 bags of gold turned it into 10. The guy with 2 bags of gold turned it into 4. And the guy with 1 bag of gold said, I only got 1. I don't know what to do with it. I'm lazy, buried it, and did nothing. And when master came back, he was very happy with the guy who turned 5 into 10, was just as happy with the guy who turned 2 into 4, and denounced, and you never heard of the guy who did nothing with his 1 bag of gold. So my challenge to every listener out there is, it's not what you got, it's what you do with what you got. And we all start somewhere. And there's story after story, especially in this great country we live in, of people who started out with 1 bag, turned it to 2, and then turned 2 bags into 4, and then turned 4 bags into 8, and then 8 to 16 and 6. So just because you're starting with 1 bag does not mean you can't end up with more than the guy who started with 5 bags. So when you understand that concept, it's okay. And for me, a challenge I had was I had a chip on my shoulder growing up because my dad was the guy who started with 1 bag of gold. My family is from the hood of Stockton, California, one of the worst cities in America. I didn't have to grow up like that because my dad ended up playing in the NFL. So people thought I grew up with a golden spoon, and I wanted to be judged by what I did with what I had, not with what I was blessed with up to that point. So by many people, by American standards, I grew up with 5 bags of gold. But I'm judge me by what I've done with what I've been given. And I think that's all we can ask for. Every man, every woman, you started here. What did you do with what you got? And, so when you have that perspective, it doesn't matter if you want to become a private lender. You might be the person who's chasing $1 billion loans because it's not all your own capital. So you need to raise a ton, and you want to, send it out to other investors and do other things. So you need volume because you're really just getting the points. So you might do more volume than I do. And maybe that's your pivot within the lending, or maybe you didn't start with anything. So you want to start a really big syndication and you want to do storage facilities. You figure out what's going to work for your story with what you've been given and your circumstances. And there's too many stories of people starting from various places to let that be your hindrance.
And that's life. That's life. We all have different skill sets, opportunities, shortcomings, circumstances like that. That's part of life. But I love your perspective on this, on just doing and doubling what you're given, what you have, right? And it gets challenging when you start comparing and looking around at others, and that entitlement can easily start creeping in. And I'm studying harder. I'm working more. Why am I getting injured more? So pushing through that, getting clarity on what it is that you truly want, and then aligning yourself with those morals, with those standards, with that action.
I want to speak to that for a second.
Please.
Because there was points in time where I considered saying F it. I'm working so hard, resentful, depressed, angry. And I didn't see this meme then, but I love the meme of most people have probably seen it, where it's the guy digging for gold, going across, and he's literally an inch away from all the diamonds and stops and is walking back. There's a guy 20 yards away, and he's freaking just has all the vigor in the world, and it's clearly he's gonna keep going. And I'm if I'm transparent with myself, there was points in time where I was almost the guy that was about to just say F it and pack it in and walk away. So my encouragement to everybody out there is like, don't be that guy. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know if it's going to take a year. I don't know if it's going to take 5 years. I don't know if it's going to take 15 years, but keep hammering the rock. Eventually that shit breaks. And if you're obviously along the way, you need to be improving what you're doing. So are you doing the right things? Are you doing the things that's going to lead to success in what you're trying to do? If you are doing the things and you're improving those things and you're learning, eventually that rock is going to break. You keep hammering it and you keep hammering it. There's no way it's not. I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know which place it's going to break, but it's going to break. And that's one of the greatest lessons that I've learned in life, because I'm like, when I finally did get drafted, and then when I ended up playing 9 years and it validated the things that I thought were right, but I couldn't prove it then, like that gave me so much confidence going forward to where it's like, I'm not having success now. It's not going my way now, but I really do think this is the right way. Keep hammering. Keep hammering.
There's
keep
something
hammering.
internally that's just driving you. So I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to lead a discussion in our men's group in my church, and we talked about resilience and perseverance in regards to spirituality, right, and your relationship with God. But I'd love to get your perspective on how do you view the difference between perseverance and resilience in life and business, and how do you see them working together?
That's good. I've never been asked that. Resilience, I would say to me, is like stuff starts to go wrong and you're steadfast. Perseverance is continuing to go and go and go. It's like longevity. So if you can combine the two, that's a hard thing to stop. Because if you have the longevity to keep going, you have the perseverance to keep going, and then you have the resilience to withstand storms, how are you stopped?
There's no failing. There's literally no failing at that point. And that was a conversation we had in the group, is the resilience is the ability to bounce back up. You get hit, you're going to get knocked down. You literally played how many times did you get tackled? How many times did you go down, but you got back up?
Yes.
That's resilience, the ability to get back up. Now, you could have gotten up and said, F this, I'm done, and walk off the field, but you didn't. You persevered, and you kept pushing, and you kept driving. And that, man, you start thinking about business, you start thinking about life. And if people, if nothing else, can learn to be more resilient and then persevere, there's no limits.
Yeah, and I think what you just said, how do you make your business more resilient and have perseverance? Well, for me in my business, like, and a huge thing I'm going to be doing in 2026 is building up my reserves even more. Because for me, I'm like, all right, proof of concept is here now, but what can break me? Okay, if I had a bunch of defaults and I have to deal with a lot of turmoil, so what would protect me against that? Having enough cash reserves to withstand that, and now I can withstand that a borrower's not making payments for a while, go through the process of taking over the property, and I know I'm lending at a good loan to value, so I'm going to be able to get all my equity back and some. So it's really just, can I withstand defaults if and when they ever happened? So that's me preparing my business to be resilient. And then how can I make sure I'm lending at a good LTV and I have the systems in place that it can operate? And if something happened to me, I have mechanisms in place. So that's allowing me to have perseverance within my business to where my business is going to be able to be around a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So when you instill that self in yourself as an individual, then you start to look at your business, your company, your investment portfolio, what have you. And it's like, how can I make my business resilient and have perseverance?
I love it. If there's somebody that hasn't had the opportunity to play in college sports or professionally, what ways, thoughts, ideas do you have that they could build or strengthen their resilience and perseverance?
If you haven't played sports, I think a great way to build resilience and perseverance, that's a great question. I would say you have to practice it regularly. I think life is the greatest lesson. like in that, because you're gonna have a girlfriend and she's gonna dump you, and are you gonna lick your wounds forever, or are you gonna get back up and start dating again? Like, you know, like we're all gonna have to deal with our parents passing at some point. We're all gonna have to deal with changing jobs. Like, so I think not letting life and its difficult circumstances defeat you, and practicing it every day, the resilience, the perseverance, that's how you build it. And then when you start to do it enough, you start to identify as a person who's resilient and has perseverance. And then that's how it instills. So for me, I had a great vehicle in sports. If you don't have sports, then you have to allow your job, your upbringing, your life kind of instill that in you by practicing it. But if you practice the opposite of it, if every time something bad goes wrong, you don't get back up, if every time things in business aren't going right, you change career paths, or you stop that business and start another one, or, you know, what have you, you know, a great concept I believe in is like a lot of people want to start something new when sometimes they just need to double down on what they're doing.
I love it. So as we wrap this up, I got a final question for you. With this being the Capital Flow podcast and just opening up flow, right, in your life and business with capital, in what ways, if you could name one thing that's really promoted or increased flow in your life, or even maybe even getting yourself in that flow state or in alignment, what would that one thing be?
That's good. I think it's all tied to a lot of what we talked about today, but I think the impact of the compound effect in your life. Because just how the compound effect is real in like investing, it's real in your habits, it's real across the board. So if you are trying to build flow in your life, cash flow, any kind of flow, positive direction, it's the start of the new year, you're trying to lose weight, the habits, they compound. So going to the gym consecutively, being in bed on time consecutively, that stuff compounds and builds. So I would say really lean into the compound effect of good habits and take that in all facets. So many people want to have good habits professionally, but not personally. Try to have them across the board. And now you become a person who's like compounding in all areas.
I love that. Awesome. DK, this was a phenomenal conversation. Really appreciate you coming in. And for those listening, appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next episode.